Hello friends, I'm Larsen and I'm the IRC Tire Guy. Today we're continuing our viewer submissions. We've had some great entries. I've really enjoyed this and I think we're just going to keep this going. As long as you guys keep sending in the videos, make sure to send them in to RichLarsen511 on Instagram and Facebook so we can keep this series going. Seems like you guys are really resonating with this stuff and yeah, I'm glad it's helping. I'm stoked people enjoy it. Let's jump right into it with an entry from Joshua Blake Humphrey. This is a double blip on a beta. Let's go. Wasn't bad. Okay, kind of similar. All right. Yeah, yes. Okay, so right off the bat, one of the most underrated and important parts of your obstacle approach in general is consistency with throttle and clutch. Now, what do I mean by consistency? I mean, you can make the bike sound almost the same every single time. So he's doing pretty much the same obstacle. It's kind of a slanted log. He's going for the double blip over this. Different spots on the log, maybe a little bit of variation in height, but the variation in sound from his motorcycle is significantly different on each attempt. So I want you to listen one more time. Let's listen to all four of them. Nice two distinct blips there. Second one. A little less distinct, not bad. Just one blip. Third one, fourth one. Heavy one blip. Right? So all four of those had pretty significant variance in the sound of delivery. If you can't make the bike sound the same every single time on the same obstacle, or even just doing a clutch up on flat ground, making it sound identical every single time, I wouldn't move forward until you can. So that's something I always tell guys is, can you do 10 clutch ups in a row and make them sound exactly the same every time? This to me creates a higher level of precision with throttle and clutch as you deliver the right amount of power to create momentum, propel you over the obstacle, hold traction over the top, all the little things that go into the double blip when, as it pertains to throttle and clutch, there's so much precision that it takes to find the complete control. It's not just twist the throttle and I mean, you can do it that way. But if you really want to find that high level of precision, consistency is key. Repetitions creates consistency, right? So I would say practice your clutch up 1,000 times. If you go out right now and do 5 clutch ups in a row and all 5 of them sound different, I would say you have some work to do on just the clutch up. Then that ability to make the consistency will transfer into everything that you do. Consistency is so key. Consistency is so key. That's a huge one. Honestly, looking at your body position, like the first one, pretty solid. Like you're driving the front tire into the obstacle, you're getting the weight forward. I think the thing that's holding you back here is all about how we're delivering that power. The earlier you deliver it, the more momentum you create before the obstacle, the easier it's going to be to hold traction over the top. Learning how to reduce those RPMs to hold traction over the top is key. And all that comes from consistency with throttle and clutch in your overall control. So I would practice the on-off out-in technique. I would practice your clutch ups. I would practice your throttle and clutch control. That's going to make a big difference. It seems like you're pretty uncoupled on the bike. You move well. Joshua, this is a good entry, man. I like it. Let's move on. Next up, we've got Christopher Eison, Shurko. Here we go. All right, big tractor tire here. Let me watch that one again. Okay, I see something you can probably change on that. And then a log. Okay, log was good. A couple things, 2 little things we can change. First off, watching the tire. Let's start with the log, since the log's a little bit smaller. Something I noticed is as soon as the front tire hits, you come back with the knees as if you're going to kind of loft that front tire. But as we get that heavy suspension compression, you collapse just a little bit. So you come forward, back, forward, a little bit of collapsing. into that obstacle, I would be strong with the knees. Lock the knees back, get the head forward. Now, on the tire, you pull your knees back solid, and that position, as pretty much as soon as the rear tire starts to hit the little rocks that you've got set up this tire here, as soon as you hit that position there, that's great. But what happened here is you kind of froze there. Notice you almost even leaned back, and we should have continued forward with the head, honestly, allowing the bike to come up into your hips. Your head should be completely forward, especially for how steep the front tire goes into the air. That's basically what happened. The front tire goes into the air, you're kind of back, and you had to chop and put your foot down so as not to wheelie over, right? So I want you to look at, I got a clip for you of me on a Sherco. This is an undercut ledge, and we'll put it in post here, but look at how close the bars get to my hips. I'm letting that bike come all the way forward. That ability to move all the way forward gives you the ability to move all the way back. And once again, if you notice here, boom, you kind of freeze. And because you freeze and you kind of kept the head back behind the bars, it made it so you had to chop the throttle and put the foot down. Letting that bike come up into your hips and bringing that head, leading that head as far forward as possible. On the second one, stay strong with your knees. Make sure you're locking them back as that head comes forward. Don't let yourself collapse into the bike. That'll give you a more consistent loft, consistent front and rear suspension compression simultaneously, and really allow that bike to loft and give you the highest likelihood of movement as needed. Learning how to stay in front of the machine is key there. Locking those knees out will put you in that better position. Really good entries, man. I appreciate you sending them in. Christopher, let's move forward. Next up, we've got Ashu 93. This is a Honda double blip approach. And one other clip too. Here we go. All right, he's on a CRF. I don't know if it's the X or just the straight up, but tough bike to do technical riding on. In a lot of ways. Yeah. Notice his entry there. Same thing. Second version. We're going to talk about that. Same entry. A little smoother on that second one. So let's talk about those first two before we move on to your other clips you sent. Notice your entry. This is something that I preach so much, and it's almost hard to wrap your head around unless you're actually applying it. But this is where a cone weave, balance drills, understanding how we use throttle, clutch, your own balance, body position, movement to maintain control in technical situations is so key. This is why a cone weave is so key. I want you to watch his entry on the first one. Notice what is he doing right here? This is a cone weave. Right turn, left turn, right turn, left turn, back and forth, both directions, right turn, and then over the obstacle, right? Back and forth, back and forth. He's weaving, holding his balance, using throttle and clutch to maintain his balance as he sets up for this obstacle. Now watch the second one. Same thing, left turn, right turn, straightens out, goes just a little faster, holds a straighter line, and the second double blip was better than the first double blip. Why was it better than the first one? Well, because he had a straighter line and he was more balanced as he entered. And this is the thing. It's hard to do anything other than correct your balance when you're out of balance. If you're out of balance when you're going up an obstacle, you've put yourself in the lowest likelihood of success, because really all you can do is correct your balance. As he entered on the second one, he was much more straight. He actually came in just a little bit faster, which the faster you go, the easier it is to balance, right? Of course, the faster you go, the more you need to move as you hit an obstacle. But this is something I say during a cone weave. It's like, make sure that you're going as fast as you can to maintain your balance. You're not fighting your own balance, but as slow as you can to maintain control in between the weaves. And this is exactly what he's doing as he enters an obstacle. And this is exactly what every single rider does when they enter an obstacle. They have to be able to maintain control and balance. And the cone weave teaches you that. That's why I'm so obsessive on cone weaves, because it is the entry, and the entry is such a key piece to the obstacle. Being balanced and controlled. Honestly, good double blips. Not bad at all. Your knees come forward a little bit too far. We've mentioned this many times. We want to be moving back and forth rather than up and down. Up and down, you can only absorb so much because you're hindered by your own inseam. But if you move back and forth, you have a higher ability to drop those hips back to hold traction. If we watch the second one, good two blips. Let's watch it again. Here we go. Second run was better. Holds balance. Comes in smooth, centered, control. Two blips, clean placement of the front tire. You started to bring your knees forward as you hit the obstacle and the chest starts to come up. I would make sure to keep abs parallel with the seat the whole time. The other piece of this too is chopping the throttle. I mentioned this on the first entry. Learning how to chop the throttle over the top of the obstacle, really allowing the spinning inertia, the flywheel, to pull you over the top of the obstacle. This is where we talk about that back end of the RPM. That's a key piece for holding traction. If you're throttling on top of the obstacle, obviously it's going to spin. So learning how to chop that throttle and let that rear tire kind of pull you over is a key piece to your approach as far as holding traction over the top. Good movement. Like I said, I would really focus on back and forth rather than up and down. I would still continually practice the balance on the approach, and that's why the second one was so much better, is because you were more balanced on entry. Let's move on to your other entries. You've got kind of a little stuff ledge here. Let's watch it. Okay, good balance. Okay, so little roll back, and we're trying to go up this little dirt ledge here. This is great practice, man. Slipping, holding balance, awesome. Love seeing that. Yeah, I mean, the biggest piece about that is, you know, first, some of you might be like, what good does that do? Obviously, these little like trick riding, parking lot tricks can really hone in throttle, clutch, balance, control, understanding of body position. Really what you're doing here is you're minimizing your momentum, which we run into situations all the time in technical terrain where you don't have a big long run in for a ledge. You've got to start with your front tire almost up against it. This is a great practice for that. It's a controlled practice for that. Minimizing momentum. I always say lack of momentum exposes flaws in your technique. So you minimize that momentum and you learn what you're doing wrong. From here, the rollback is going to be the key piece. The further you can roll back, the more momentum you can create, right? Rollback, just rolling backwards, is a high level of balance that will transfer into your overall balance. And there's a lot that goes on too. I'm noticing here you're not using a lot of suspension compression to initiate the rollback. I like to start centered. I drive my knees forward, holding that front brake in and getting suspension to compress and then rebound. That rebound allows me to roll back. I would drive my knees forward, front suspension compression, snap my knees back, clutch comes in, front brake comes off. That will allow you to roll back further and give you more space, more momentum for the obstacle. So that's going to be a key piece. Practice your rollbacks. You can go up on an obstacle just like you're doing here and practice rolling back and then putting the front tire back in the same place, holding balance. Rolling back, putting the front tire back in the same place, holding balance. That's great for your clutch control. That's great for your balance and your overall understanding of how to make the bike do exactly what you want. And that will transfer to everything that you do. As far as the obstacle goes, this is a very similar problem that I saw with the second entry from Christopher on the Sherco. Allow the bike to come up into your hips. You're kind of hanging back. The chest comes up, the knees come forward, the hips come forward, and that makes it so you're almost hanging off of the bars and you have to chop, let off, and you don't make it up the obstacle. Get the head forward, keep the hips back, allow the bars to go towards your hips, but you're keeping them back the whole time. That gets you in front of that machine, allows you to drive the weight back to hold traction up over the top. That's a great practice. Honestly, momentum, getting further back will assist. I practice rolling back all the time. It's one of those things that it takes a lot to learn how to roll backwards, and it assists you with your overall balance as you move forward. Like I said, that's a fun practice, and it does transfer to your riding. just your overall control. Make your bike do exactly what you want it to. Great entries, man. I love seeing it. Let's move forward. We've got entry from Yeah, It's Got a Hemi. That's his Instagram handle. Yeah, It's Got a Hemi. Very cool. Unstuck technique. Here we go. Yeah. Okay. Not bad. That first one was good. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's just pause it there. He's got 3 more of those, but let's talk about the first 2. Once again, going back to sound, there's an audible difference between those 2. The first one, listen to how high the RPM is. Right? Your RPM's higher, but it's almost like you're hesitant of keeping the RPM that high. The second one, your RPM is significantly lower. It's smoother, but it's significantly lower. You don't create that load of power, and it kind of just bogs over. So first off, you touched on the right RPM a few times during the first one. Once again, you can hear every time you find the right RPM, it's like you chop. It's like you're a little hesitant to keep the RPM that high. I would say bring the RPMs up just a little more as you're slipping the clutch into the obstacle. Now, this also might be because you're not holding your front brake. I can't see, but this is a common mistake that I see riders make. They don't have the ability to actuate front brake and throttle at the same time. And if you can hold throttle on, hold your front brake in, and slip into the front brake, that will hold the bike in one position. It'll also load your suspension, and it allows you to get the RPMs just a little higher for a higher load of power to propel you up and over the obstacle. Now, the second one, you're significantly lower, and you kept it low. So listen to, as soon as you step onto the pegs in the drive, how good the first one sounded. Not bad at all. Bringing that RPM up. The second one, we're low, way low, almost on the edge of stalling. And you went for it and didn't build any RPM. So I would say this is a little bit of maybe fear to bring the RPM up a little bit more, and just finding that right sound. There's a certain sound that your bike makes that's a very clean, steady note. And that's the place that I like to hold the bike as I'm preparing for a static zap like this. As I'm preparing for an obstacle, it puts me in the right amount of output to then be able to build the RPM up as I step up onto the pegs. Now, the first one, you stepped up onto the pegs, you drove your weight forward, good position, and you built the power. Something I say is the speed in which you step up onto the pegs and drive your weight forward is the same as the build of RPM. So as soon as you stand up onto the pegs and drive, it should go as you drive the weight forward. And that's what you did there. Let's watch the third one as we continue forward. You can see there's still a little bit of inconsistency in the hold there. That's better, but I would say still a little low. Okay, you built your RPMs higher on that one, but again, I think this is kind of a fear-based thing. You're chopping early, and that's why the bike fell right back down onto the frame. It's like you weren't 100% confident in building the RPMs that high and releasing the clutch. And you know, that makes sense. It's scary to build the RPMs. The higher you're at no momentum here, so you have to build them to get that propulsion up and over the obstacle. And you're a little bit fearful, so you chop the throttle early on that third one, fourth one. That was a good build of RPM, very smooth. You released the clutch, I would say about halfway, and then I can hear you brought in the clutch just a little bit and kept the RPM on. It spun over the top. Again, it's kind of like you want to build those RPMs, release and reduce, and almost stall the bike as it goes over the top, as the rear tire goes over the top of the obstacle. You want it to be a transition from maximum amount of output that you need for the obstacle to minimum as quickly as possible. The quicker you can make that transition, the better rider you are. I say this in all the classes. It's a key piece. Last one. Yeah, that was a good release, quick release of the clutch, but it almost surprised you a little bit, I would say, and you chopped the throttle early, and that's the thing. You land right back down on the frame. Now, also your body position on that one, I would say you could have drove a little bit harder forward with the aggression in your clutch release. Once again, you drive your weight forward and then you release the clutch and your weight comes back. If you only go halfway forward, you only have half the distance to move back to hold traction over the top. So you had to chop or you would have wheelied over. Good aggression in the release, but maybe getting the weight further forward would assist you. Each one of these, there's variance in your RPM. Consistency in the delivery of power is so key. And this goes back to the first thing that I said. It doesn't matter if it's for a double blip or a static zap or any of the riding that you do, consistency in delivery of power is so key for your overall approach. As we heard there, each of those have a different sound. So finding consistency can come from a lot of things. It can come from practicing rolling back and forth on an incline. It can come from holding the bike in one position and rolling back like the previous entry that we just had. It can come from practicing on, off, out, in, the thing that I talk about all the time. It's not like you use that every single time. Don't misconstrue what I'm saying as this is the only way to do it. It's the ability to do it that creates an overall control on your motorcycle. The ability to do it all the different ways then gives you the coordination and the precision with throttle and clutch as you continue to progress through different obstacles and through different forms of riding. So that's such a key piece to your approach is consistency with throttle and clutch. That comes from fundamental practice. Practicing everything gives you a higher level when you're practicing a specific thing. So I hope that makes sense. Such a key piece, super, super key. Great entries, man. That's really solid. Yeah, I love seeing that kind of practice. Really, really good stuff. And great Instagram handle. Yeah, it's got a Hemi. All right, this is from Luke Enduro 58. This is a double blip. Let's go. Okay, entry. That's pretty solid, man. Maybe chop the throttle a little more on top, but I'm nitpicking. Yeah. Okay. Styling over this rock. Pivot turn. Nice. Back over. Okay, honestly, those are really good, man. I mean, I can tell you're a great rider. Great approaches. You're a great rider. I would say one of the big things is placement of the front tire. It looks like every time you kind of place the front tire on top of the obstacle, which is fine in some situations. I don't know, I'm judging from 3 clips, right? So make sure you can also drive the front tire into the obstacle. That gives you hindrance and motion, allows your weight to get forward, and it'll actually make it so you don't have to use as an aggressive of second blip. Because you're getting suspension compression, because it's allowing you to get the weight forward, you can actually reduce the amount of throttle you're giving. Because you've reduced the amount of throttle to propel you over the obstacle, you can then transition to a lower throttle to hold traction over the obstacle. So I know I said a lot of things there, but if you notice, when you're placing your front tire on top of the obstacle, you don't really get a big hindrance in motion. So you're almost, I mean, it looks like you almost even drag a little bit of brake, which is a great technique to have in your bag. But still, you drag a little bit of front brake, and then you really build the RPMs. Listen to each one here. Big second blip. And that's good to have. You know, I'm not saying it's wrong. That one was a little lower, and we actually got a little bit of front tire touch, but listen to this one. Like you're needing to build a little bit more RPM than you need to because your front tire is not driving into the obstacle. You're doing it great. You're doing a great job. Make sure you can drive your front tire into the obstacle as well, because there's a time and a place where you're going to hit a log like that or an obstacle like that. and there's a time and a place where you need to hit your front tire. Being able to have it on lock every single time, consistency is a key piece. Really good stuff though, man. I love seeing it, dude. You're going to be a savage. It looks like you're a young buck, and yeah, you're going to be smoking me for sure. Here we go. Let's move forward. We've got an entry from Samira, I believe. Samira Abraham. This is a CRF and KLX, two different bikes. Okay, so the angles are a little tough here because I can't see what you look like, but I'm just watching. I'm seeing a lot of up and down. Yeah, a little bit of blow forward with the knees there. Yeah, a lot of up and down and less hips. So let's talk about the first four that are all on the CRF before you move to the KLX. It looks like you're moving up and down. We mentioned this in one of the previous episodes. Learning how to move back and forth rather than up and down. A lot of riders think that they absorb bumps with their knees. And you do, but learning how to hinge rather than up and down movement with your knees. There's a big difference between knees up and down, knees over toes, or versus knees back, hips back. So learning how to make sure you're moving back and forth. I would say as the front tire comes up these kind of K-rails on their side, I would really focus on locking the knees completely, keeping the head forward, allowing the suspension on my bike to work. I'm not absorbing with my knees. I'm locking my knees and allowing the suspension to work. And then when I get that hard hit or that little bit of a kick, I'm straight-kneed. I've created the most space for me to then hinge my hips back and absorb whatever outside force there is. So the key piece here is try to make sure that you're moving back and forth above your bike rather than up and down. Hinging those hips back. Each time you jump here, I'm seeing you kind of absorb up and down on the landings, and that puts you in a place, it's almost an unbalanced place. You'll put too much weight on the front, too much weight on the back. When you're moving up and down, you start to bring your chest up, the hips come forward into a posterior rotation, and that also puts way more input into your bars through your arms. So the straighter you can keep those knees and the more you use your hips back and forth, the more it's going to take the pressure off of your arms and the higher ability to move in the appropriate direction you'll have. Now, watching the KLX clips, because we've got a little bit better angle, it looks like you're kind of hitting some stacked logs here. And those look better. It's almost like maybe the CRF clips were taken earlier and the KLX clips are a little later. You've practiced this, because that one looked quite a bit better. Let's watch the second one. That was a lot better, a lot more movement back and forth. I like that. Really allow that bike to come, the handlebars to come towards your chest. And then as soon as that rear tire hits, the front tire drops, hinge those hips back all the way on landing. Even on the KLX, a little bit of up and down movement. Really focus on practicing dropping your hips back. That can be practiced with an acceleration and deceleration drill. And on deceleration, hinging the hips back. Feeling what it's like to counter the outside force. When you brake, it wants to push you forward. So you're countering that force by driving the hips back. And learning how to do that, or even practicing it one-handed, will transfer into your obstacle approach. Acceleration, deceleration, I teach that in every class. And it's because it pertains to obstacles. It pertains to logs just like this. Great entries though. Looking really good. This last entry. All right, we've got Zandre Mientes, maybe? KTM hill climb. Here we go. This is a short one. All right. Good little sandy climb here. Let's watch it again. Okay, with a little ledge on the top. I'm going off of a 5-second clip. So there's not a lot that I can go in depth on, but just watching. As you enter, let's talk RPM. You're entering very steady, and if you listen, you're on flat ground here. And you're pretty much giving it the same throttle as you go into the hill. You've maybe increased just a little bit as you go into the hill, and then you go up the little ledge here, and you increase a little bit more. It's kind of a steady increase of RPM. Something that I tell guys to practice all the time, especially as it pertains to hills like this, is decrease momentum. I said it earlier in this video, lack of momentum exposes flaws in your technique. Anybody can climb a hill with a 10,000 foot run in, but put your front tire all the way up against the hill and then try. That's where you find out where those flaws in your technique are. Are you comfortable getting the RPM up? Are you comfortable with holding the throttle wide and delivering the right amount of power with the clutch? Are you comfortable with body position? Do you have balance to start 2 feet away from the hill? Because you got to put your feet onto the pegs and move. Do you have that high level of balance? So there's a lot of little things that go into decreasing momentum. You decrease momentum, you learn the things that you can get better at. You're deliberate with your training. I would say start with your front tire closer to that hill. That will be a good challenge for you. You kind of got a nice run in. Listening to your bike, you're pretty steady on the throttle. I would bet that you're not 100% comfortable letting that thing sing. The other piece of this too, let's talk body position. You kind of enter and you really spread your knees really, really wide, like just before it flattens out, just before that little ledge. There's a time and a place where we spread our knees wide. I would say you've gone a little bit too wide here. You're floating above the seat. You could drop down a little bit more. It's not bad, but again, there's a time and a place where you widen your knees. You kind of widen them out there. As we hit this flat spot before the obstacle, basically right where I paused it here, this is where you should be loading for that ledge. And again, if we take the momentum away, you're gonna have to load, get the RPM way up before that ledge, and then get on the power. And you load it a little bit, but we can increase even more. And if you watch there, you actually spin on top. Again, if we take that momentum away in the same situation, if there was a turn just before that hill, would you be able to make it? And this is where we find out what we need to work on. Loading the engine before an obstacle on a hill climb is a key piece. I always say you want to build the RPM way before that obstacle instead of giving it throttle on the obstacle. You give it gas on the obstacle, you're going to run a higher risk of spinning the tire. You build the RPMs before, then you can transfer to minimum as you go over the top and hold traction, right? That's the key thing. The best guys in the world know how to load the flywheel, get the RPMs way up to maximum, and then transition to minimum to hold traction after they've established. So it's a key piece to your approach. Thanks for the entry, man. Like I said, cut that momentum down, practice it, make it harder on yourself. It's deliberately focusing on making it harder on yourself so you learn what you need to do better. Balance, body position, throttle and clutch, or a little bit of everything. I would say deliberately focusing on cutting that momentum down exposes the things that you need to work on. Thanks for the entry. I appreciate that. Everybody's support during this series has been amazing. This has been a lot of fun. I enjoy doing these. It's neat to see people practicing the stuff that I put out. It's neat to see people trying to progress. And man, I mean, it's probably scary to send a video in and put yourself out there like that. So I really appreciate people doing that. Keep them coming, man. I'm going to keep this series going because I really do enjoy doing it. And I think that it helps a lot of the riders out there. I think, you know, it's not just me doing big obstacles. It's the average rider trying to get better. And I think a lot of you guys really, it resonates with you. So I want to continue doing this. I appreciate everyone's support. I'm coming along great with healing. And yeah, it's just amazing. I appreciate everyone us getting over 100,000 subscribers. Pretty incredible that we have such a great following on the channel. And we're going to keep it going. Thank you guys so much for the support. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at IRC Moto, my personal Instagram page at Larsen511. And until next time, keep